Gwen was with Ben and Rook and they were headed to London, and Rook was asking more about this Miss Green they were going to see, and Gwen says that she was a bitch when they were kids, and is probably still one now. Rook asked if she was some sort of female canine species, and Ben explains that it was a word used to insult someone who they didn't like. The Ravonagander asked if they did not like her, then why were they going to help exactly, and Ben tells them that they were going to help her grandfather, not help her. He was a friend and someone that was actually a rather nice person. He also helped Grandpa Max recover when something went down when they were kids. Rook says that that makes sense, going to help a friend of their grandfather's, and presumably fellow plumber, and Gwen tells him now he's getting it. They then get to where they were supposed to meet up with Kai, and she tells them thanks for coming, as she didn't really know who else to call, but Ben tells her that they were there to help her grandfather. Nodding, they skip over the banter they had in the episode, and cut straight to what was going on. She'd shown them something one of the knights had dropped, and so they were going to check out the facility whose name was written on the ticket. It didn't take long to get there, as it kinda stuck out among the newer buildings around them, being old and sorta worn down a bit. They were exploring the building as Kai noticed Ben had a new Omnitrix, and Ben jerked his hand away, telling her, touch him again and he'd break her fingers. This new rig had a lot of new aliens and he didn't want her messing around with it. She then asked if he could turn into Ben Wolf, and he tells her it's Lycanthrawler, and to quit asking questions and get to searching. Gwen starts getting annoyed and uses her magic to knock Kai over, as she was turning to walk away. Ben went to keep searching, ignoring Kai on the floor. Rook called them over as he had found something, as they'd put the stacks of papers on top of each other, but Ben says that that doesn't look right. The statue is too new to go with that map. Rook says that from his Earth studies, there used to be another statue of this person in another location. They just needed to find it, and we then cut to them in a cemetery as they were looking for whatever was there, with Kai finding the clues confusing, and Rook says would those not be proper names if they were capitalized, and Gwen points out that there were graves in front of them that had matched. Ben opened up the stone casket as roadblock, as they just found some strange glasses there, and they were attacked by the knights, with Ben throwing the stone top at the Forever Ninja, as Kai tells them that she'd get those items out of there, and Roadblock tells her to just stand there, as strange energies then appeared around Kai, creating a barrier that the Forever Knights couldn't get through. They continued fighting the knights, with Gwen battling the twins again and Rook handling the ninja. That just left Morton to Ben, and they were fighting and honestly beating the knights. They heard someone calling out for them to stop, or he would kill the old man, as we see Chadwick as he says to hand over the oculata to him. They seem surprised hearing that, and Ben says that they can't seriously be going after Excalibur, and Chadwick says that he was sharp as ever. Now surrender or West dies. With not much choice, they do so and are taken with the knights, as the scientist and new Forever King says that they will use the device to reveal the doorway to the Vault of Britannia. Chadwick tells Morton and the twins to take those three to the Victoria Tower, gesturing to Rook, Gwen, and West, then says that he and the Red Knight will take Ben and Kai to Elizabeth Tower, mistakenly calling her his girlfriend, and getting kicked off the roof by Ben, who yells at him that there's no way in hell that's happening. He's engaged and his fiancée is standing right there. The Forever Ninja saved Chadwick, and he apologizes, telling them to take Kai, the old man, and Rook with them, as he and the Forever Ninja will take Ben and his fiancée with them. Once that was settled, they then separated and set up the devices onto the towers, as the pathway was opened up by the light of the moon. Gwen whispers to Ben that they're gonna have a distraction, and they need to get down there when it happens. When the bell began ringing, Ben jumped over the side of the building, as did Gwen, as with Rook using his proto tool to get Kai and Wes away from the other knights before they could recover from the sound of the bell ringing, and Gwen then cast some sort of wind-based spell, as the five of them were then flown over by a cyclone to the door to the vault. Though they'd made it first, the door was sealed and they weren't able to get it open. However, Chadwick was, as he'd used a ring, putting it into a hole in the door shaped like the ring, and turning it, making the door open, as Excalibur was inside in a stone, as an added extra precaution. And the Forever King drinks something that mutates him, giving him super strength as he tries to pull it, but it doesn't budge. They tell Ben to turn into an alien and pull the sword, but Ben just leans against the wall, telling him no, because Excalibur isn't his to claim. There are 3 great blades, one of which was his to wield already. Wielding a second wouldn't be his right to claim. This made them angry, as they threw the stone, blade and all, at the wall, causing it to bust a part of the mechanisms of the doorway, causing the stone stone door to drop back down. Ben lets out a sigh and stands up ready to fight the Forever King, as the others handle the other knights. And the mechanisms inside the walls keep getting busted, slowly filling the place in the process. Some of the rushing waters had blasted hard enough to knock Rook over and take him with them. As he was being washed away, he'd reached for anything for grip, grabbing the sword Excalibur as it had moved, with him looking up confused, while reaching up to grab with both hands. Kai tells them that she's found a way out, but there's some sort of lock on there, and West tells the knights that if they didn't stop fighting, they'd all drown. Sir Morton says that they have a temporary truce out of necessity with them, and Gwen swims down using her magic to break the lock. She tells the others to get going and calls out to Ben, who is still fighting. Ben tells Chadwick that it's time to go, and he says to spare him his charity because he is the most powerful Forever King to have existed. They throw Ben against the wall and sit on the throne, refusing to leave, and Ben then dives down following Gwen out of the place, as they'd been washed away out of a line where Wes and Kai were, along with Rook. Wes says that it's a shame they were unable to claim the sword, as Rook asked if they meant that sword, as he held up Excalibur, that had his plumber's badge attached to it. They asked how, and Rook explained that he discovered he was able to pull the sword from the stone when he'd grabbed it by accident trying to regain his footing, and when Gwen had caught the lock, he'd tossed the sword with his badge inside before going himself, and hiding it in case the knights appeared behind him. Ben tells Rook good thinking, and Kai's grandfather tells him that he needs to find a safe place to keep that thing, to which Rook says not to worry as he already had a place in which he knows that the sword can remain safe. Gwen then says that makes all three they've collected, and Ben nods in response to that, saying let's hope we never gotta use them, huh? Giving her a wink in the process. Though they hadn't needed it this far, why start now?